Greetings one and all, this is vk3sl. Welcome to our test missions tonight, and just a reminder that we are testing on 160 and also on UHF, and there is a streaming service which can be found on YouTube. Just look up my call sign on YouTube and there is a channel there devoted to this enterprise. And hello to you, Frank. Hi, how you going?
Going well. I just finished listening to Clint. Clint said he's coming to tune in tonight.
Oh, tremendous. Oh, welcome to you, Clint. It'd be nice to catch up with you at some point. I hope to have a chat with you. Yeah, I've been spinning by the fire and having a bit of a doze and a bit of a listen and hearing all about the Barbie film, because the fam have all been out, or some of them have been out watching that tonight.
Oh, yes.
So, yes, they've all got quite a lot to say. I did see it actually a couple of weeks ago. I thought it was actually a minor masterpiece. But
really? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's. I've never seen such effective reframing of a topic, but it deals with a lot of existential issues, which I think is always a good thing for Hollywood films. They don't usually do that, but they've turned a corner in this instance. It's very clever. So. I do commend it, but
what about Oppenheimer?
Oh, that was very interesting. I thought it was it was sort of more of a drama about his life and his turmoil, and the when he was brought to a sort of a kangaroo court, really, about being a communist. So it's more about that and about his allegiances and how he was put through the ropes. Not as much technical information as I would have liked.
No, I've heard others say that as well.
Yeah, I would have liked to hear more about the Manhattan Project. And yes, you saw it all unfold, and it's the usual in-your-face Hollywood style of cinema.
He was the first to identify a black hole. Oh no, he did the theory that indicated there would be black holes.
Oh, how interesting! I wasn't aware of that at all.
No, it wasn't till the U3A tutor showed us a documentary about that.
Yeah, it was interesting insofar that a number of the big figures in in quantum, well, that line of new physics, as they called it, were there. People like Edward Teller was represented in the film, and he was a major figure as well. Einstein was in the movie.
It was very interesting that Oppenheimer should be chosen for the Manhattan, because he is essentially, or was essentially, a theoretical physicist.
Right. Yes, that is interesting. I think he was sort of brought in. I think it was sort of they hit the road running. They were very worried that the Nazis would get the bomb before they would.
Oh yes.
So that was the prompt for it all.
Certainly would have changed the face of the world, wouldn't it?
Oh God, yes.
Doesn't bear thinking.
It doesn't bear any thinking about at all. But of course, what we're against, in the current balance is also not that great.
No, it's not. But it's a terrible thing. It was anyway. Look, now's not the time to philosophise. Yeah. I know, but it was kind of inevitable that someone was going to get to it.
Yeah. Well, we're sort of facing it all again with AI. I have listened to quite a few AI lectures lately, which have left me with a chill, really.
I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, I'm happy to share with you some of the ones. Yes, there's a number of sort of experts in the field who are looking at it in a very global sense, or looking at the whole. What could happen, the exponential development of AI, and I think that's where
I'm fascinated to hear those.
Yeah, because once it starts writing its own code, which is what it's assumed it'll start doing.
That's right.
It could develop a sort of consciousness of its own, maybe nothing like ours.
Spiraling sort of a process.
Yeah, and then really anything could happen. And there's a lot of speculation about the problems which might manifest, but no one, of course, knows, and there's all sorts of schools of thought, but some of the arguments are very interesting. They're so theoretical and so complex, I can only just get the general feel of them.
Yeah.
But they are certainly worth listening to, and people like Eliza Yudovsky is a really important he and many others are sort of talking about the concerns about alignment to human principles.
Yes. That's the thing, is it's feeding in our ethical framework and
That's right.
and knowing how to control this thing.
Well, that's right, exactly, because I think the nature of large language models is that it sort of self-perpetuates with a particular trajectory, but our moral fabric, our moral codes, and our interpersonal and emotional sort of language is not necessarily in the equation.
I know there are certainly people in professional positions who have very grave concerns. I mean, I'm talking about lawmakers and
I can understand that.
And judges.
Yep, I can absolutely understand that. Educationalists. The thing is, I think in principle, I think it's incredibly exciting, and it'll bring forward all sorts of really interesting new ways of looking at the world, and
You betcha.
and I mean, I not deny the wonders of it really, but I think it's just the fact that it could start to move exceptionally quickly at a particular point.
Yeah.
And if it starts to move, tens of thousands of times faster than our minds can think, and it can aggregate so easily because computer code, being digital, can copy and replicate and find its order in a very sort of universal way, that whereas humans might be bright, but it takes quite a long time to share information. There's a lot of redundancy
Yeah, that's right.
in human discourse. So, yes, looking at the way machines do things, it could move very, very quickly, and particularly if it's got its own objectives, which may not necessarily align with ours.
Or if someone wants to just let it free run with no particular objectives other than to make itself as powerful as possible.
Well, that's right, exactly. Well, see, that's hugely concerning, because if it develops some sort of consciousness or some sort of awareness, and that's its motivation, well, it's the end of it, end of our civilization.
All bets are off, aren't they?
Yeah, it's the way it would seem anyhow. So it's interesting to hear these things unpacked and discussed at a very theoretical level.
Sure is.
Yeah, so I'm happy I'll share some of the things I've been listening to.
Thank you, very much appreciated.
Yeah, they're very interesting. All right, well, we'll kick off with a recording of the Bush Chamber Players. I'll just play the side B of the first movement of Bach's Brandenburg Concerto number 5.
Lovely.
Thought this would be a nice way to kick off today. So it's a Columbia 78 from the 1930s. I think this was recorded about 1936. Oh, wait a minute, something's going on here. We haven't got a full operations. Wonder why. Oh, I know why. Because I've got the... I'll just have to turn off the SDR, which I'm monitoring on the same computer. So bear with me. I'll just have to make this work. And we'll do another needle
Just
drop.
while you're doing that, I'll just say a big hello to the listener.
Indeed. Greetings,
You're very welcome.
listeners,
Hope you're
one and
finding
about.
it to your liking.
Yeah, hope so too. All right, here we go. And I'm sorry to say, I can't find the next record in the set, so we won't get the cadenza. That's a pity, isn't it? Never the mind. I'll wrestle this off. And yes, I've only got parts 1 and 2, not parts 3 and 4. How unfortunate. That was Rudolf Serkin playing the piano there. And yeah, we had some idea of the balance. Marcel Moyes, I think, on the flute, and Adolf Busch was the fiddle player and the leader of the Busch chamber players. Sorry about that, folks. I was hoping to give you the full cadenza, but I'll see if I can find it. I'm sure the rest of it's here, but I thought it was all crammed onto one side. Not to worry.
Never mind.
Never mind.
It's lovely, that cadenza. It's the first sort of written out cadenza there was, isn't it? I mean, in harpsichord.
Yes, it's sort of the forerunner of the piano concerto, really.
Yeah. But he actually wrote out a cadenza, didn't he?
Yes, he did, indeed. He did. I'm just trying to see if my tablet's here. Here it is. Maybe I can look it up, because I just sort of feel like I want to hear it.
Must have been phenomenal to hear him actually improvising himself.
Oh, gosh, yes, wouldn't it just? Would have been amazing. Yeah, so that's the Busch chamber players. Brandenburg, Berg number 5. Now, I think it's online. Yes, it is. It was recorded in 1935. And, all right, we'll see if I can continue it from an online recording. Okay. All right, this will sort of more or less do it. Here is a version online. It's the same recording.
Yeah.
And we'll at least get to hear the cadenza with Rudolf Serkin. He plays it beautifully on the piano. It's just, I have listened to this before, and it's really quite special.
Lovely to hear the tempo right, isn't it?
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely, I agree. Yeah, they take a really mild tempo and bark, and it just makes a difference, doesn't it?
Oh, huge.
Yeah, all right, well, let's have a listen to the middle movement, the cadenza. Bravo. I think I'll continue, Frank. We'll hear the rest of it, shall we?
Please. Absolutely.
go. That was Brahms. That was Bach's Brandenburg Concerto number 5 in D, a 1935 recording with Bush chamber players. Adolf Busch on the fiddle and Marcel Moyes, I think, is the flute player, and Rudolf Serkin, who was Bush's son-in-law, playing the piano.
Just beautiful.
Oh, it's wonderful. I love it. I love
think
that
that's
piano playing.
my favourite of the 6 of them, really.
I think so too. I just love hearing it played on the piano.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I just think you can just do so much more expressively with the piano than you can with the harpsichord.
You just can. That's right.
Yeah,
you just can. You can do all the nuances you can do.
Yeah, that's it. And there's so much voicing and different
It's
colours
actually
you can
much clearer too.
Definitely. Yeah.
That third movement is just about the happiest, most life-affirming thing that I just know, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It is. It's very positive music. It's just so full of
Happiness.
Yeah, it is. It's just joyous. It just springs eternal, that movement. Yeah, I love it. So that's. I'm glad we were able to source the rest of the work after.
Brightened up my day.
That's nice to hear. Yay! All right. Well, we'll play because a couple of things have just sort of popped off the shelf. Things I'd just like to hear, actually. One of them is evidently quite a rare recording, but it's incomplete. It's an incomplete set. So I'll just play a small fragment. It's a recording of Brahms's first symphony made in 1923-24 with the German conductor, Felix Weingartner. And he was a part of the New Objective movement. He was born in the 1860s and he died in 1942. And his recordings are considered quite important because it foreshadows the likes of Toscanini and others who had a much more objective, didactic approach to the music, as opposed to expansive readings with people like Furtwängler. So it's just be keen to hear what he does with this is with the London Symphony Orchestra, recorded 1923.
Yeah.
And I just thought I'd play a small fragment of the end of the first movement, just a couple of minutes only, just to get some idea of what's going on. And orchestral recordings are never that great acoustically recorded, but will just be interesting to see what Columbia were doing towards the very end of the acoustic age. So, let's have a little sample of this. Yeah, such a dramatic work, often referred to as Beethoven's 10th. It was Brahms's first. Just the end of the first movement there. Interesting to hear it. It's very hard to capture the full energy of a symphony orchestra through the acoustic process, but Yeah, there are certain
Better than I
symphonies.
expected it to be.
Yeah, look, it came across reasonably well, and yes, it was quite a straight reading of it by all accounts, and that's fascinating. Well, it's a pity I've only got the first and second movements. It says here it's yes, Symphony Number 1 in C minor in 10 parts. It says on the label. I've got about 6 of them, but anyhow, it's nice to have it. And an early recording of the London Symphony, probably the first recording of the Brahms First Symphony.
Yeah.
And fascinating, really, when you think it was, only 50 odd years after the work was written.
It is.
It's sort of, it brings it all into sort of into line, doesn't it? When you,
Yeah.
There's another recording in the same batch, which I'd like to sample. It's the Carmen Overture. Now, this is earlier. I'm presuming it's a British orchestra. It says the Grand Symphony Orchestra, and I just looked it up on Discogs. And this record goes back to 1914, so
Whoa.
It's much earlier. It's got Weingartner's signature across the label. It's been scratched onto the wax, and it comes up quite beautifully, actually, on the label. And it's the Carmen Overture. I'm going to play this because I've got to perform this next week.
Oh, boy.
With the next Wednesday night, big concert at the Recital Centre. And I'm playing double bass in the orchestra. Yes, they needed an extra double bass.
Bass.
Yeah, they got enough cellos, but they just didn't have enough basses. So I'm playing bass in the Carmen Overture. So I've got to practice.
Very versatile of you.
Well, I don't know about that. I brought the part home. I've got to remember to practice this weekend. So I look like I know what I'm doing, but I will sample this and find out what it's all about. Again, it's the Mr. Weingartner. So, yeah, an important German conductor from that period, from the late 19th century, early 20th century.
Yeah.
And contemporary of Mahler's. Let's have a listen. Interesting emphasis on the third beat there. I'm wondering if that was an artifact of the recording because the bass part didn't come out too much, or if it was intentional, but interesting. Yeah, an early recording of Carmen from 1914 with Felix Weingartner. Yeah, anyhow, that was...
quality for 1940.
Yeah, that was very well recorded, wasn't it? It really had quite a lot in there. So... it's a good record. I'll say the other side up. It's the Magic Fire scene from Der Valkyrie by Wagner on side B. We'll save that up for another time. Yeah, now looking through the pile, there is, I don't think I played this. This is these 12 Talks on Melody by Sir Walford Davis with Marjorie Hayward. We've been playing them sort of over the weeks. And I don't think I played this particular one. It's on adventure in music.
Good.
So this should be good. They're beautifully articulated, wonderful commentator is Mr. Walford Davies. He just has a beautiful, soft way, gentle way of bringing music to the fore, and it's product of that beautifully, wonderfully schooled English education system at that time, with quite a deep, a very approachable analysis of musical elements. So we'll hear another of the 12 talks. There's a disc flip in the middle of this.
Let me just say this is vk3sl in contact with vk3sl. I'm on 2 meters FM.
Thanks, and we are testing, of course, on 160 and on UHF. And streaming online. So, let's hear it doesn't say what number it is, but it's 2 sides of a 12-inch record, 12 Talks on Melody, Sir Walford Davies, who was a renowned English musicologist. And this was recorded in 1929.
In what I have just called the ABC of melody making, we must, of course, think first of its adventure. Every melody must venture upon its first thought. Think of the splendid first thought of the Marseillaise. Or the vigorous Rule Britannia. Or the light-hearted Come Lasses and Lads. Or of the first thought of Beethoven's first piano sonata. Now in melody I think it is always a case of nothing venture, nothing have, and as all melodic ventures are for love, remember that yours should start along a way that you really love. It may leap, or it may go step by step. It may be quiet in its rising and falling like the London Derriere.
So I'm going to have to fade that because there's a lot of RF getting into that for some reason. Not sure what's going on. I'll play it on the other turntable. It's a very softly recorded thing. So we'll play it on this turntable, and hopefully we'll get a better result here.
Or the light-hearted Come Lasses and Lads. Or of the first thought of Beethoven's first piano sonata. Now in melody I think it is always a case of nothing venture, nothing have, and as all melodic ventures are for love, remember that yours should start along a way that you really love. It may leap, or it may go step by step. It may be quiet in its rising and falling like the London Derriere. Again, it may be quite jumpy and rugged like this. Then in its rhythm, it may be sprightly as Handel is in this movement. Or very quiet as he is later on in that movement, much like a lullaby. whatever one's first adventure may be, it should always have its very own character, as true to your own meaning as ever you can make it. Never be afraid to alter a note here and there when you write your tune. Alter the notes till you get them right. It was no doubt Beethoven's determination to get his melody absolutely true to his first meaning that made him alter and rewrite so much. We are told that he made no less than 21 forms of one simple tune before he could let it stand. I suppose that means that his mind was not equal to his inspiration. The notes he found would not satisfy his imagination, so his mind and hand, like good servants, had to hunt until they found. We should hunt and find in our small melodies. Now I suggested your adventure should always go by a way that you love. Suppose it is only a little musical walk up and down stairs. It may be lovely and worthwhile. Or another day you may like to leap upstairs and run down. Or you may hop down. Or you may leap higher still and race down. Or for that matter, you may slide down the banisters. Write what you like what you write. If you do not, it will not be your melody at all. By the way, never be afraid to love and write down that which other people have loved before you. Haydn loved this little adventure. What a lovely phrase it is. Long afterwards, it is not surprising that Beethoven took it, made it his own, and gave us a beautiful movement upon it. Some wise man has said, mimicry is the cradle of art. You will not always be in the cradle of melody. When you come of age melodically, you may chance to discover a brand new melody. But it will still have been well cradled if you have made the old melodies your very own. Two very important things in the adventure of melody making are the rise and fall of the phrases and their rhythms. You are a melodist. Imagine that your mind is poised on a single tone. Now 5 things may happen. You may dwell on that tone, or you may rise by step, or you may rise by leap, you may fall by step, or fall by leap. Now it is safe to think of the qualities we commonly call grace and strength as 2 qualities we most look for in melody. I rather think it is also fairly safe to associate melody that rises or falls by step with the quality of grace and gradualness. And melody which favors leaping suggests strength. There are many ways of blending the 2 qualities refreshingly. Listen to old Morley setting Shakespeare's "It was a lover and his lass." This has the gentle grace of step-by-step movement, yet being built on common chords, it has a sturdy quality too. Melody that moves in chords seems to combine smoothness of thought with strength of purpose. When a phrase attains strength to take a flying leap, the easiest leaps are those that lie well within man's thoughts, like the octave or the fifth. And when a big leap is taken, a musical bylaw suggests that it is well to return within the leap rather than to go beyond it. That latter is sprawly, though strong. Let us now note 3 other good ways of combining grace with strength by the use of grace notes, passing notes, and changing notes. Take this strong passage from a well-known tune. Now add grace notes. Or add passing notes. or add the ancient changing notes. Or add a mingling of all three. And it is easy to see how the total rise and fall of a man's melody will inevitably convey his character. Melodic utterance, plain or florid, exuberant or reticent, can be as true and subtle an index of a man's mind as any sincere utterance, for example in words. Now a word or two as to the rhythm of melodic adventure. It is clear that music depicts two kinds of rhythm. They may be called rhythm of action, as in marches or dances, and rhythm of thought, as in a slow movement of a sonata. The rhythm of a blacksmith's hammer is clearly a rhythm of action of the body. The rhythm of a Beethoven melody, as he dwells for love on one note and speeds through others, is as clearly the rhythm of his mind at the moment. Of rhythms of action there seem to be two well-marked kinds. We may call them for convenience figure rhythm and travelling rhythm. Here is a famous figure rhythm. Here is a still more famous travelling rhythm. For examples of the endless possibilities in the other kind of rhythm, the rhythm of the mind dwelling imaginatively on this and that tone, Miss Hayward and I are making two supplementary records, one of Handel's Largo from Berenice, and the other the slow movement of Beethoven's 10th Violin Sonata.
Well, I'd love to source those. That would be excellent if I could find those recordings.
Yeah,
But I found that utterly delightful.
it certainly was charming, wasn't it?
It really was. Yeah, I really liked the examples. I liked the sort of lucidity and there was a certain... It sort of evolved. The ideas sort of evolved in a very natural way, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing contrived about it.
It's all very persuasive, isn't it? Really?
I think so. It's a really different way of looking at music. It sort of just goes from first principles and then the whole, the concepts sort of develop in complexity and breadth. But, really infectious. I love that.
Very much.
Yay. All right. Let's continue. Now, I've got the books to hooter for a little later on. I won't go very late tonight, but we'll play that soon. But I was going to play this really bizarre recording here. This is something that's just so strange. It's a violinist called Joseph Haig, whose real name is Jascha Heifetz. Heifetz made some recordings of a bad violinist. He had a very strange sense of humour, but he actually made some recordings of slightly off playing, and and it's a big practical joke. But someone's put them online, and this is the double stop sonatina for solo violin. Now it's all in tune, but he gets all the emphasis and the weighting wrong. So it's something really incorrect and bizarre about it, but it's quite subtle. And that's the genius of Heifetz. He wasn't sort of just in your face, but yes, he had an agenda here. And so I won't play long, I'll just play a couple of minutes of it, but it's quite a fascinating, bizarre document. I remember hearing this at uni, and yes, it was Heifetz's practical joke under the under the name of Joseph Haig. Okay, are you seasick yet, Frank? That is just one of the most bizarre things I've ever heard. What possessed him to make that recording? Yeah, but
it's subtle, isn't it?
it's subtle. But what he's doing, he's got all the emphasis wrong, so it sounds it's like a reaction to the Baroque movement with all of its short phrases.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he sort of does it ad nauseum and just distorts the whole dramatic contour of the music. But yes.
It's interesting because on the one hand you've got this thing that sort of sounds wrong, but it's being played beautifully.
I know, this is it. He is it's clever. It's really, really clever.
I mean, to hear him play, you sort of know it's being played by a very good violinist.
That's right. But he's got this consistent sort of distortion of the music right through.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, the timing's all wrong.
It's fascinating, isn't it? So I just heard from Clint on Messenger, and so he sent a video sample, and it seems to come through really well.
Oh, excellent.
So that's nice to hear. So thanks so much, Clint. Thank you for that. That's great. I look forward to having a chat. Hope to make it on the morning. It looks like I can do around about 10:30 on the coffee break before the main thing starts. So if you want to chime in then, it would be great to have a chat with you, Clint. So yeah, we can look forward to that.
Excellent.
Now, let's see what else. Oh, there's all sorts of interesting things that popped up this week. There is a recording of a beautiful cellist called Andre Navarre, a French cellist who was really big in the 1930s and 40s. I know a number of people who studied with him as an older man, and I'm quite aware of his methods and his aesthetic, and very much a part of the French school. He plays a Valentini sonata here, a Baroque sonata in the sort of in the romantic way, but he plays it ever so beautifully. It's got lots of colour. I'll just play a slow movement, just the beginning of this, a recording made in the 50s. was the first movement of Valentini's Cello Sonata number 10, opus 8, with Andre Navarra playing the cello. Yeah, for that wonderful, I love that French style. It's slightly woody sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can really hear the chorus. That French is full of overtones and fast vibrato. It's yeah.
It's good that they're playing the string instruments as well.
Sorry, what's that?
The fast vibrato as well.
Yeah, that's right. It's true. Yes, it's a part of their aesthetic, isn't it? To play with the fast vibrato.
Oh, it seems.
Yeah. Very, very fast, and there's sort of an intensity, and yeah, you hear that in a lot of the French players. But yeah, I heard him. He came out to Melbourne as an older person in the 70s, and as a student, as a very young student, I went and heard him play Navarra, and yeah, he was still going strong, and it was at the Dallas Brooks Hall. He played a performance. I actually think he played some Valentini in that performance. No, he played La Folia, the Marais La Folia variations in that concert.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know them.
Yeah, he was quite past his prime, and the reviews weren't that kind to him. But he was still. No, I thought it was a very impressionable experience for me as a youngster. Yeah, so he used to make his students work incredibly hard. I know a couple of people that studied with him, and he made them do thirds and sixths and octaves for hours a day.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he was a bit of a taskmaster.
Oh.
But yeah, anyhow, fine player. I was just thinking before, Frank, that those recordings of Weingartner, I did a quick search. Now, he actually did meet Brahms and received Brahms's approval. Isn't it extraordinary to think that we have recordings of conductors who
actually met the composers?
Yeah, and performed their works to them. He conducted Brahms symphonies, and Brahms was in the audience and sanctioned the performance. And not only that, he studied with Franz Liszt.
Oh, my God.
As a pianist.
Oh.
So this is the thing, isn't it? If an artist was born in the 1860s, they would have, they had the second half of the 19th century to be on the scene. So it's fascinating, isn't it?
It's amazing.
It is. It's staggering.
It sort
really.
of bridges the time gap.
It
completely,
does.
doesn't
It does. So it brings it all to the fore. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Well, I'm keen to play. I really thank you for your recommendation of the Buxtehude, because I was trying to get some information. I was trying to put two and two together, because you mentioned that you heard it on Dr. Floyd's program.
Yes.
And I would have presumed that would have been, what, in the early 70s or late 60s?
Yeah, no, it's 60s anyway.
Right. I was trying to look up one of the first performances of Buxtehude trio sonatas, and there's one here from about that time.
Yeah.
But I've been unable to. There's reference to it, but I can't find any recordings of it at this stage. I'd like to hear it though.
Yeah, very likely it's the one I heard.
It would have been the one you heard, I expect. So that's.
I had a bit of a look for mine. I didn't come to hand. But
no, that's okay. That's
it's
fine.
on a vinyl, and my vinyls are not very well,
Sure.
identified.
Yeah, well, anyhow, I looked at the contents, because there's a listing of the contents, and it was all from Opus 1, and it seems that Opus 1 and Opus 2 were two sets of trio sonatas, and there's about, I think there's close to 2 hours of music. It's an enormous amount of music.
Oh, that is a lot.
Yeah, and so I just chose one from that album, and I'm just sort of guessing it might have been one of the ones that you heard. I don't know.
I'll know it if I hear it.
Yeah, and but I chose a version where instead of harpsichord continuo, they're using an organ continuo, because I just think it sounds fuller, and I love the sound of the organ as a continuo instrument. So yeah, we'll hear violin, viola da gamba, and the cembalo or organ accompaniment. So we'll just play this one. It's about 10 minutes. It's Trio Sonata in A minor, Books WV254. So from that very first set, Opus 1. So yeah, I think this is really worth listening to. I listened to some of it before, and I thought it was beautiful. Really beautiful music, lovely counterpoint. There's a middle movement where it's not exactly a fugue, but it's got similar sort of interplay between a reoccurring theme. So yeah, let's have a listen to Dietrich Buxtehude, early Baroque music from the late 1600s. music of Buxtehude, his trio sonata, Opus 1, number 3 in A minor.
Yes, yes. That wasn't, didn't have the one that I'm thinking of.
Right.
But weren't they beautiful?
Oh, yeah. I really like it. And I just love the sound of the portable organ.
Yeah, it's perfect for us.
It really is. It just adds body. And, yeah.
I thought it might overwhelm, but it doesn't at all.
No, not at all. It's just very gentle, and it just encapsulates it.
Those little chromatic runs that he did.
I know, abound with them. And it's interesting, isn't it, how at that point in time Baroque music had a sort of a simpler form in a way, and it was before all those big Italian influence with all the ritornellos and the complexity that came from Corelli and others, Vivaldi, and
it had a sort of clarity, though, didn't it?
Definitely, yes. And the sound of the gamba is quite beautiful with the violin, isn't it? It's there's a complementary nature there. Yeah, I really enjoyed hearing that, and we'll persevere with them. Or if you just in your own time, there's lots of them online. There's so many of these Buxtehude trio sonatas.
We'll certainly be able to find my vinyl. I think it's a two vinyl set.
Right. Okay. And if you find it, just let me know, and
I'll pick out the particular one that I most like.
Yeah, sure.
But I like all of them. I think they're lovely, and you can see why Bach wanted to go and study with him.
Definitely. No, he's really a competent composer, and it's just fascinating to hear that early Baroque. I
love the early Baroque, like Purcell and who they all are. But
that's right.
They've got a sort of freshness about them.
Yes, there is a freshness, sort of more transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was really good to hear. Well,
thank you for that.
No, it's fine. It's been good. Now, just a few more things. Now, there's a recording of Lucas David. He was an Austrian fiddle player, and he only died last year, but I think he taught for most of his life, but he was a disciple of Nathan Milstein, and made a few recordings in the 50s, which showed exceptional talent, but he just didn't sort of develop the soloist life, and so these recordings are really all we have of him, but they are just electrifying, wonderful. And there's one here of him playing the La Folia. I think it's La Folia, or it's a Corelli sonata, and I thought it was worth playing. So the music of Lucas David. Was the Austrian fiddle player Lucas David, and we'll say the rest of it up for another time. And he was playing the Leonard arrangement of Corelli's La Folia, with huge cadenza at the end, which is almost as long as the piece. But that's a great way to play Baroque music. Yeah, I was reading about Lucas David, and he spent much of his time teaching at the University of Music and Performing Arts in Vienna and the Hochschule, and much of really since the 50s. But he had a distinguished career from the late 40s through to the late 50s. For about a 10-year period, he was touring and doing great things. But an Austrian fiddle player of note.
Yeah, very nice.
Magnificent player.
Very smooth.
Oh, really? And just that lofty, beautiful, crafted vibrato, Heifetz-esque vibrato.
Yeah.
But great to hear that arrangement of La Folia. Yeah.
It's amazing. La Folia is one of those things that so much can be done with so little, in a way.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I mean?
Exactly, I do. It's apparently an ancient Portuguese tune, I believe.
Yeah, I knew it was sort of traditional.
Goes way, way back. But it's compelling. I love that work. I've enjoyed playing it in different forms.
Yeah, no, it is lovely. You never get tired of it. It's relatively simple.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Corelli, I love Corelli's music. I think he's one of the outstanding Baroque composers.
I think so too.
I'm not the first to come up with that idea.
Yeah, look, he is, and he really understood the fiddle. He knew how to write for it.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a difference when you have a performer composer.
I'm sure it would.
That's essential.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of imagination in his writing, and he was the first of that Italian school to sort of really put the virtuosity on the front foot.
Yep.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll start winding things, but just a couple of quickies. You mentioned Wynton Marsalis is coming. So I thought we'd actually end up with a jazz piece tonight.
Great.
But before doing that, I'll play just a short excerpt of him playing the final movement from the E-flat Haydn Concerto. And apparently this orchestra's with John Williams nonetheless.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we can have a listen to this first. Is that quite short? And then we'll follow on with with a jazz item. So we're just about to kick off. Well, that was a very young Wynton Marsalis with Haydn C-flat trumpet concerto there, and a performance conducted by a much younger John Williams as well.
Pretty virtuosic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fabulous. Oh, I love that concerto. He was such a good tunesmith, wasn't he, Mr.
Yeah,
Haydn?
just reeled it off, didn't he?
He did. We'll have to have more Papa Haydn on this
Papa
program.
Haydn, yes.
We will, and I'd love to play some of the string quartets, and yeah, there's all manner of wonderful offerings by Haydn. I love his cello concertos too.
I
Yeah.
don't know many of them. How many did you write?
I only wrote two.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, they're sort of they're works that every cellist attempts to play.
Right.
Yeah, but what we'll do is we'll wind up with a recording of Wynton Marsalis and his septet at Dizzy's Club.
Oh, great.
So, and it's a recording of Embraceable You, so it should be a nice sort of lyrical way to wind up for
Lovely
today.
Gershwin tune.
Yeah, and we'll say our thanks to listeners.
Yes, I hope you enjoyed it, listeners.
Definitely, and
learned as well as we did.
yeah,
As I did.
yeah. Well, that's right. I find it all educational. It's a sort of a journey, really, and it's just finding out new things along the way. And a special hello to Mr. Fleming as well, who's written a couple of notes to me. He's listening in tonight, so
indeed,
he always
indeed.
listens. He's a dedicated listener.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
He's
and
very loyal and comes up with good stuff all the time.
Oh, look, he does, and he's just doing some research at the moment on a topic of mutual interest, which I'll probably speak about at a later time. But it's radio and history related topic. But
He fully appreciates the modern jazz quartet too, which
I know he does. I know he does. Well, I tell you what, I can play Embraceable You, and then I could finish up with a modern jazz quartet.
That'd make at least us happy.
Yeah, totally. We can do that. What would you recommend?
How about there's an album called No, don't. There's a lovely recording of them playing Mean to Me.
Mean
It's
to
a song
Me?
called Mean to Me.
Mean to Me. Okay, I'll find it. I'll put it on.
They're probably more than one, but they know how to play it really well.
Oh, terrific. All right, we'll definitely play that. So I'll just sort of crossfade from Embraceable You to that and to finish up the program today. So that'd be great. All right, thank you. And look forward to catching up tomorrow, Frank.
Absolutely, Steve.
Yeah, all right. Have a good day tomorrow, and thanks
And
so
you.
much for sharing in the experience. It's
Always great.
Yeah, I enjoy it too. All right, speak to you soon.
vk3sl going clear and listening.
And vk3sl saying cheerio.